Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Into the Blue Live. I'm going to share with you my top 5 dive sites to shore dive here in Bermuda. And of course, I had all this set up to go live on time. If there's one thing about me, I'm an on-time kind of guy. So I set up the live, scheduled the live here on Facebook, and it had the live producer set up. It did the countdown. It got to 0, and the browser's just spinning. So I sat there for 30 seconds wondering what was going on, and I decided to shut down the browser, start again, and start a whole new live instance. And so here we are. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining in on the live, or if you're watching this on replay, thank you so much. I'm just going to take a second to let everyone jump on. If you can let me know where you're tuning in from, that would be fantastic. A little late on the stream, but it's okay. I think it's okay. And share this out to your pages, guys. If you've got just a second to share this out and you think that someone would benefit from listening to me talk about my top 5 sites to shore dive in Bermuda, that would be great. And if you can hear me and see me okay, just give me a thumbs up or write me a comment so I can see that. That would be fantastic. Cool. Let me just open up some other stuff here. Welcome to the Blue Room. This is my home office, or my soon-to-be home Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram live studio. Got some new goodies set up, and already I'm keen to invest in some acoustic panels, get some soundproofing going. Hey Josh, great to see you. Welcome to the live. A little late in Bermuda, but yeah, it's early somewhere in the world, right? So again, I'm going to share with you my top 5 sites to shore dive in Bermuda. My name is Weldon Wade. I'm an avid Bermudian diver living right here in Bermuda. I've been diving for over 10 years. I'm a PADI master diver. That's the highest level that you can get in the recreational track. I'm not a PADI professional. I'm not a free diving instructor yet, but I went all the way on the recreational side, and I encourage you to do so as well. You learn a heck of a lot. I'm also a BSAC assistant instructor. I'm a TDI certified CCR diver, and I'm a certified free diver. Right now, I'm the only Bermudian that's certified across all of those disciplines, and I encourage you to do so. I totally am for being a diverse diver, not sort of siloing yourself into one specific discipline. But we'll talk about that in a second. I founded my own diving organization called Guardians of the Reef. We do exactly what the name says, do things to help guard and protect our reef, our beautiful blue backyard, part of our blue planet, right? I talked about that on PADI's live on Monday on World Oceans Day, and this is World Oceans Week, so shout out to all of the ocean heroes around the world. I also serve on a couple of boards, NGO and government. So yeah, I've been at this for a while. Hey Lucy, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, this is episode 1 of many I hope to do in the future. So guys, feedback is critical. So if you're on the live, thank you so much. Send me some feedback, give me a thumb, give me some hearts, give me the wow face if you've got that. I'm getting used to the whole new setup here, so this is pretty awesome. It's pretty wicked, and the feedback is valuable. I already know, because I can hear what you hear, that I gotta get into the acoustic side of things and get things a little sorted out in here. So for those of you that because this can be viewed by anybody, so I can't assume that you're in Bermuda, you've been to Bermuda, you've heard of Bermuda, you probably have not. But yeah, Bermuda is a very small 21 square mile island, just about 670 nautical miles off of the east coast of the United States, off of the Carolinas, Cape Hatteras to be a little bit more specific. So as you can imagine, if you just shoot east off the U.S. there, I mean, we're smack in the middle of the Atlantic. We're the jewel of the Atlantic. We've got no neighbors that we can, just reach out to if we happen to run out of sugar. We can't just take a boat to any neighboring island. We're sort of isolated. Our nearest neighbor to our east would be the Azores, and if we were to sail south for quite some time, we would get to the Bahamas. But we're significantly further north than our brothers and sisters to our south. What is a Bermuda? See, going live definitely does have its disadvantages. Can I block? Can I block people? That's a really good delete and hide comment. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, Bermuda's known for so many things. And we've got about 64 miles of coastline around Bermuda, around this little itty bitty island. There's about 64,000 people on the island right now, population wise. Quite a number of them are divers, one way or the other. We're either, free diving and spearfishing, harvesting our dinner from the ocean, or we're scuba diving. So quite a few Bermudians and people that reside here do enjoy diving. But the reason that we are here on this live episode 1, I'm going to share with you my top 5 dive sites to shore dive in Bermuda. And this isn't going to come to much of a surprise, to the people that know me, particularly the people that dive with me. One of my dive buddies, we did a bunch of shore diving, back in, I think, between 2013 and 2016. My buddy Andrew DeMello, shout out to you, Drew. You guys used to do a lot of shore diving. So essentially, if you don't know what shore diving is, if you can imagine, if you want to get into the water, you either walk off a beach, you jump off the rocks, you jump off a dock, or you're on a boat, you're boat diving. So that's essentially what shore diving is. You're just walking off the beach. So let's get into it. So I was gonna put these in a kind of order, but I'm gonna skip that completely and just jump right into it. So first up would be John Smith's Bay. So in the future, for these lives, I will get a little bit fancier. I try to keep this stuff as simple as possible, but I do want to get a bit fancy with screen sharing and sharing photographs and video. If you are on this live or you're watching the replay expecting some multimedia, some pictures and video, unfortunately, I can't do that. I haven't figured out quite how to get Facebook to switch from the camera feed to my screen sharing. I think when you start the live, you have to choose one or the other. So I'll figure that out. I'll download OTS and get a bit fancy so I can show off a bit more of that. Or I'll do a zoom trick. I did some research, but I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible for tonight. So John Smith's Bay. John Smith's Bay lies on Bermuda's south shore. It's sort of in the east end of the island, not extremely in the east, but in the east. And it is a phenomenal dive site to dive. And there are numerous reasons for John Smith's Bay being the first that comes to mind when I think about shore diving. Location being one. You roll up on your scooter or in your car, you unpack all your equipment, you take a few steps and you're on that concrete sidewalk, and you're able to look, and you've got a view of the vista. You've got the beach and the sand and the ocean and the reef is all right there. Everything is super extremely close. They've got facilities up on the hill that you can go to wash off afterwards, restrooms and whatnot. So everything is sort of there, and it's, even though it's a very popular public beach, it doesn't get overrun or overcrowded. There's a fantastic grassy hill, a grassy knoll that overlooks the beach as well. So whenever I do the dive against debris events that I was talking about on my live on Monday, that's where we set up the tent. And again, yeah, I can't mention setting up base camp on the hill and hosting those diver invasions or those calls to action to dive for debris without saying we'd set that up real nice. We'd have music and safety gear and bring some spare weights and cylinders and I'll bring some swizzle and make my 5 bean chili and we do the dive whether it's for invasive lionfish or for debris, wrap up the diving, come back to shore, and just enjoy ourselves. And I haven't done that for a little while. I need to do that again very, very soon. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Melissa. Wonderful to see you on the live. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have. And feedback's important to you guys. This is my first Facebook Live from the Blue Room. And like I said earlier at the start of the live, I definitely got to get some acoustic panels or hang up some towels or something on the walls and put a carpet down just to absorb a little bit more sound. I'm just hoping my neighbor doesn't kick in his reggae. He usually kicks in about an hour of reggae every night between 9 and 10:30. So we'll see how that goes. Love his music. He just has a little bit loud sometimes. I digress. So yeah, so number one on my list for most popular shore diving sites in Bermuda would certainly be John Smith's Bay. And again, I need to be able to switch over and share with you some video and photos because it'll be a lot easier to explain if I was just able to say, cue the video. But what happens, and this is how many sites off of Bermuda's South Shore are, it's quite shallow for a bit, and then you reach the boiler reefs or the breaker reefs, and then it gets to some depth. So you're able to get in and dive in about 25 to 35 feet, and then as you get to the breakers or to the boiler reefs, I'll call them boilers. Breakers, same thing, right? But you get to that reef line, and at that line is where you'd find all the swim throughs and all the caves and caverns and tunnels, and then it goes over the edge and gets to depth anywhere from 55 to 65 feet plus. And that's what you find along many sites along Bermuda's South Shore. And I refer to diving in Bermuda like North Shore and South Shore because we really don't do too much off the extreme east and the extreme west. If you Google Earth Bermuda and you kind of zoom in on it from above, you'll see that Bermuda sits on this rim of an extinct volcano. And how our landmass, the archipelago of many little islands connected by bridges and whatnot, Bermuda, fishhook-shaped Bermuda, sits on the bottom of the sort of the crater, right? So what happens is if we go north, we have to go north quite a ways, about 10, 11 nautical miles before we get sort of over the edge of that. But on the South Shore, you take a little swim and you're in some depth, and it's not a wall situation. We don't do any wall diving here. It's a very gradual slope to the abyss. So yeah, it's South Shore is where it's at, frankly speaking. But it's great to have alternates to dive in the north or the northeast or the northwest because when the wind's out of the south and it's too choppy or too swelly to dive safely on the South Shore, it's great to have somewhere where you can go in the north. So again, to go over the list, number one, John Smith's Bay. Go along the shallows, check out all the tunnels and little swim throughs, and then get to the breakers and go over the edge, and it's amazing. And how I have John Smith's Bay divvied up in my mind, because it's such a phenomenal site, is it's really 3 sites in one. So when I do guiding at John Smith's, I'll think to myself, okay, of course I look at conditions, and then I say, okay, well, let's go west. And we'll boogie west and see reef. Like the reef has its own sort of signature. You head that way, you see certain things, it's got a certain feel, or you head straight out off the beach. You drop down, you get to a swim through sort of system that I call it Devil's Throat. It's like this arch, and I planted a geocache there. I can talk about that another time. And as soon as you see the geocache and you hang a left, you get to an area, it's a swim through tunnel. That's all it is, but we call it Devil's Throat. So that's sort of the dive site straight off the beach. If you head straight out to the breakers and you kind of just look around there, a lot of amazing tunnels and swim throughs as well. Or you can head east, and yeah, I'd say as far east as if you were to pop up and have a look at shore, you're off of the Lauren, off of that property. So if you're on scuba, and I've been thinking it all, ever since I promised you guys that I would go live and talk about this stuff, I was like, do I talk about shore diving on scuba? Do I talk about shore diving, free diving? it's tough because in the context of scuba diving, you're limited to the amount of gas you have, right? How much air you have in your tank. So typically, I do a shore dive on scuba, and we'll do about 70 minutes. That's all in, including maybe a 5 to 10 minute shore dive, surface swim on our backs, right? So we'll just flip over on our backs, maybe use our snorkel, but we want to conserve air, do a surface swim, and then turn over when we get to reef of interest, and then drop down and start our actual dive. So looking at 70 to 80 minutes from getting your gills wet to actually coming back up the beach at John Smith's Bay, and at most shore diving sites, you get about, I'd say, just over an hour. But yeah, moving on. Second, and these aren't in any particular order, but it will certainly be diving, shore diving off of Elbow Beach. That would be my second shore diving site that I happen to love. Now, Elbow Beach is super cool because, so you think you've got Elbow Beach, you've got the beach, you've got Coral Beach, you've got the Elbow Beach Hotel. So you've got right in the middle of Elbow Beach, you've got a public access via a tribe road, and then on the west you've got Coral Beach and the beach in front of them. It's interesting because the whole beach, the whole strip is you can walk the whole thing, but access, you want to get access via the public tribe road. Otherwise, you end up on Elbow Beach Hotel property, you end up on Coral Beach private property, so you don't really want to do that. But either way, you go down this narrow tribe road, you then get out of your car, get off of your scooter, and as soon as you do that, you look out to the shore, you see just this amazing vista. It just opens right up, the stairs go down, but above the stairs you look and you see this entire, it just opens right up. You've got the blue sky, the blue ocean, and then the beach. And Elbow is definitely an amazing site to shore dive. And it's such a long, vast strip of area that you can really divide that up into many sites as well, just like John Smith's Bay. So real quick, really two things that I want to touch on when it comes to Elbow Beach. So if you and I were to dive Elbow Beach tomorrow, I'd say, look, first things first, we're going to hit the arch. Now, the arch is right off the stairs. So we get our kit on, we go down the stairs, we walk down the beach, we enter the blue, we swim straight out until we get to that breaker line that I was talking about, and we'll get to an arch. Now, around that arch are first of all, at the arch, there's usually, schools of some amazing horseye jacks, lots of really, really big fish. And then, so that's amazing in of itself. But then you have tunnels and swim throughs all around the arch. And that's actually a moored dive site. The dive operators nearby will moor, and they call it, what's it called? Help me out, Josh. What's that called real quick? Not Hangover Hill. Tarpon Hill. Yes. So on occasion, the local dive shops will actually boat dive that site, but believe it or not, from Elbow Beach, the public access, you can shore dive that site, which is pretty nice. And I mean, you can certainly get to the arch, and how I sort of visualize it as a guide is I will again enter the blue, flip over on our backs if we're on scuba. If we're free diving, we're not worried about our gas. We're breathing ambient air. We're not limited. We're only limited by, I don't know, getting back for lunch, getting back for dinner, or just being tired. And you don't really want to free dive until you're exhausted. I don't recommend that. But those are the core differences between scuba and free diving. Obviously, you're carrying a tank of gas on your back, and you're limited by that. So we would on scuba flip over on our backs, do a short surface swim, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes out, just depending on how we all feel. Just do a quick minute recovery, and then descend down and head out to the arch. And again, how I call it as a guide is I'll say, okay, well, let's head west from the arch. That's one dive. And then we'll double back and just retrace our steps and end the dive. Or I'll take you out to the arch and go east. And it's cool because each direction has its own features, and it's just an amazing site to dive. And at one point, I know Andrew and we used to dive Elbow Beach. I think we were doing 3 times a week at one point. I mean, I used to go there. Don't tell anybody this, but I used to go there in advance. When I was working a 9 to 5, I would actually take my lunch to take cylinders to Elbow Beach and stash them in the trees, and then we'd come after work and then use their cylinders and dive. And not all the dives were single tank dive either. Sometimes we'd clip on an extra tank or share one cylinder between the two of us, or we both sort of have a stage bottle, do sort of a doubles without the back pleated wing, just clip off a stage bottle to get more time in the water. Now, obviously, if you're free diving, you're not bound by that. You can cover more ground, though most free divers won't be able to stay down 55, 60 feet for long periods of time. Certainly not safely enough to traverse all of the swim throughs and all the features that you find at Elbow Beach and certainly at John Smith Bay. So you could absolutely free dive the two sites I've mentioned so far, but scuba's fun. And hey, choose a discipline that works best for whatever you want to do. I think I'm talking more to the scuba guys, but yeah, Elbow Beach. So again, I mentioned earlier that Elbow Beach is really, I said two, but okay, so you get to the arch, you go left, you see cool things, you go right, you see cool things, but there's something amazing a little ways down the beach. If you were to enter the public access, go down the stairs, go down to the beach, get it where it's not, the sand isn't too soft and whatnot, where it's more packed and a little bit wet, because you're carrying a 30-pound scuba tank, you're carrying your weights, you're carrying all your kit. Walk towards the Elbow Beach property, the Elbow Beach Hotel property, and go right to the edge and enter the water and find the pipeline. I'm not too sure what's in these pipes, but there's a pipeline that runs right where the Elbow Beach property ends. You just follow the pipes, you get to the end of the pipes, you hang a left, you get to the wreck of the Pollock Shields. So there's a lot of history about the Pollock Shields. I think she sank in about 1915, and that is one of the, we're the shipwreck capital of the Atlantic, right? I say that all the time. It's what it is, right? Many shipwrecks, hundreds even. The Pollock Shields is one of the handful of wrecks you can actually access from shore. Now, you got to know where to go, and I'm guilty of, taking people out to dive to Pollock Shields and not being able to find it. Just taking a wrong turn or not finding the pipes. It is a vast wreck. It covers a lot of ground, but if there's current or swell and there's not a mooring ball under, you can kind of lose your orientation and not get lost. You just pop to the surface and you can see land, and you can kind of use triangulation and figure out where you are. But when there's a buoy, when there's a mooring ball under, it's easy to find. Either way, that is a fantastic point of interest on Bermuda's South Shore off of the Elbow Beach. So definitely Elbow Beach, number 2 on my list of 5. Number 3. So I talked about this earlier, and you always got to have a backup plan, because even though you want to dive South Shore tomorrow, maybe the wind's going to be out of the south and north is going to be nice and flat. So if north is glossy flat, then you have to consider diving north. Now, if I had to dive north, I'd dive Clarence Cove. Number 3 on my list, Clarence Cove or Admiralty House Park. So this is an amazing, it's just an amazing spot. There's so much that Admiralty Park or Clarence Cove has to offer. Now, I say that because the beach, the cove and whatnot, that's called Clarence Cove, but most people know that area as Admiralty House Park. There's an old Admiral's house structure on top of the hill that's been abandoned for a long time. As you come down to the shore level, there's the cove, and then there's a cave system, and there's tons of history about Clarence Cove and Admiralty Park. So look that up if you care. But in terms of diving, you guys, diving the North Shore tends not to be as good as South Shore. But again, if I had to dive north, and this has happened before, snorkeling, free diving, or scuba diving, Admiralty House Park's the spot. And I wouldn't do the cliff jumping in my scuba gear personally. I don't know how that's going to work, carrying all that lead in the tank and jumping off the cliff. But you can enter off the beach at Clarence Cove and just go around the dock. And it doesn't get super deep. I think it's been 22 feet max for me in certain areas, but generally it's even less than that. And just snorkel along the rocks. Now, what I like to do, which most people haven't done, and this is, I don't know if I should let this out the bag, but if you're at the beach, right, and you're looking at the cement platform or the dock, it's a dock, there's like a tunnel, right? Bring your dive lights along whenever you're in that area, and you're able to just swim through that tunnel. It goes right underneath the rocks, underneath the cliff, and exits on the other side. You can do this just if it's low tide. You can do this without any kit at all, but I recommend having at least a mask and a light. You can snorkel through there. You can free dive through there. You can go through there on scuba. I love to use that particular tunnel to do overhead experiences, just to take people in an overhead environment where you can just stand up and you've got air. I also like to do simulated night dives in there too. Even in the middle of that tunnel that cuts through, you can still see light on either end, but it gives someone who wants to experience a night dive sort of a heads up about what a night dive may feel like, knowing you've got the safety of having air above you if you were to stand up, and it's daylight, so you can still see daylight. Use your lights. I use it to test kits sometimes, but there's tons of biodiversity in that tunnel too. You can find baby octopus, baby like crabs, baby lobsters, little banded shrimp, baby sea cucumbers. You just never know what you're gonna find. Sometimes you just find a school of glassy sweepers and some fry, and that's it. I've taken people through there, and we don't really see too much of anything. But me going through for the 50th time and you going through for the first or second time would be totally different. It's dark, it's a bit spooky, and I think it's fantastic. And all along that north edge, on a good day when the visibility is good, because sometimes it can be a bit hazy, you can find all kinds of things: moray, eels. You'll find some debris usually from people fishing. Normally guys just throw their bottles overboard, and you'll find fishing line and whatnot. So in terms of safety, definitely carry a knife to cut any monofilament line away, because you do get a lot of fishermen fishing off of those rocks, and the last thing you want to do is get entangled. So as a diver, you should always be carrying a knife, even if it's one of those easy cut knives where it's not a blade, or the blades are in the plastic. It's sort of it's called an easy cut. Look it up. It's a wonderful thing. I think I keep 2 of them on my scuba kit at all times, just to cut myself out of entanglement. I don't want to move on because it's already been almost 26 minutes and I was a little bit late, so I apologize for that, you guys. But yeah, Clarence Cove will be my third. My fourth might be a bit of a surprise to some of you guys, and it is definitely a must do, as long as you have someone that knows how to dive it. And that's the thing. There aren't many like dive leaders that will bring small groups together and dive different sites around the island. I know that I used to be part of a couple groups where there were numerous people that would lead, because you need that leadership in order to bring people together and keep everything safe and keep everyone in check. And I gotta say that because Flats Bridge isn't something that most people think about diving, but that's my number 4, Flats Bridge. So if you're familiar with Flats Bridge, you've been to Bermuda, or you're in Bermuda, you're Bermudan, you know that Flats Bridge connects essentially North Shore with Harrington Sound. You probably know Flats Bridge to just be just dangerous. There's the current as you get high tide and low tide. You get just a few minutes of slack water before there's a raging water in either direction depending on the tide. There's fire coral, there's boat traffic, there are fishermen. Even though you're not supposed to fish from that bridge, there are fishermen, so there's monofilament line everywhere. Yeah, just sorry, you guys. I'm going through some comments here. Like, I thought it was frozen, but it's not. Flats Bridge, you guys. So the trick is, I did a PDF for this. And I shared it out with the group I was a member of back in the day. I used to do a heck of a lot more diving back in the day, like diving almost every night after work. Scaled back. I got a boat and I spent more time doing that stuff. But Flats Bridge is my number 4. So I think just because it's not a safe dive site, and it's a site that most people don't talk about, and it's a site where you sort of need to have like local knowledge or at least guidance. It makes it really, really, really cool. Like, it's already covered the dangers of it, right? But inside the bridge, and what I mean is on the Harrington Sound side, if you're standing on the bridge, you got the Harrington Sound side and you got the other side where all the boats are moored, right? So if you're standing on the bridge, you're looking towards the sound. There's a hole. It's a big hole with ledges, and I hope I'm explaining this right. But it's amazing. That's an amazing dive in of itself, right? Getting in, dropping down, and checking out the hole that sits there, and it's really the ledges, because I mean I've done a lot of dives at Flats Bridge, and I can tell you right now, there's some big creatures that live under the ledge down there. You can imagine, like, it's a protected area. I mean, and this is why, like, you gotta really be careful sharing information, because you don't want somebody to take what you're saying. Like, I'm giving away this information in good faith, but you might have guys say, "Look, Weldon said there's these big lobsters down there. Let's go take these lobsters." And I know for a fact I did a night dive one time at Flats Bridge, and I think I got about 6 inches away from this hogfish. There was a massive, like, 28-inch hogfish just laying on the bottom, just taking a nap. And I remember my friend Kellen was with me. I think Cal was with us that night. Yeah, so just to kind of think about it real quick. So we're talking about one of the gnarliest dive sites in Bermuda, and yeah, we're diving in at night. So, anyway, I mean, I could talk about Flats just as a live by itself. So I think what I recall, because it has been a while, is you really want to enter the water when it's at slack. And I think it's a certain amount of time after the mark. So what I'm going to be doing on another live in the future, once I get some sound panels up and work on a couple things to make this good, unless this is good enough for you guys. I mean, I got this cool new mic, got the camera, because shore diving in Bermuda, you need a guide, yeah, if you can, and you need equipment. So that's a whole nother thing that I'll try to cover quickly as well. But assuming that you are in Bermuda and you're a resident or you're a visitor and you've got all your stuff, and you have the experience and all the equipment to be safe doing what you're doing, you really need to learn how to use some tools. And those tools are namely like weather tools. So you always want to know, like, what the weather for the day is, because weather, I don't care what you're into, it's wicked knowing how to read the weather. And if you're diving or sailing or doing anything, you gotta know what's going on with Mother Nature, right? So I bring that up because you gotta know the high tide and low tide marks, and it's good to know that regardless. Go to weather.bm, click on marine, click on tides, and you get the tide tables, and they're static, meaning you can just print off the times for the month, or you can go to the next month and just print that out and stick that up on your wall. And you get high, low every 6 hours. And it's important for you as a diver, regardless of discipline, to use these tools. You need to know which way the wind is blowing. You need to know the wind wave. You need to know the swell direction. You need to know the swell height. Wind Guru is an amazing tool. Wonderground is an amazing tool. Weather.bm is an amazing tool. Windy is an amazing tool. And I don't use one tool. I use a combination of the tools because these are models. They're not actual, except the tide times, right? You know when the tide is going to do its thing, right? For those of you guys, and I know my buddy Andrew and I did this a couple of times, we were doing twilight dives during the full moon. So you can, on weather.bm, you can also see when the whole moon stuff is happening. So the reason I like to guide night dives or twilight dives, twilight meaning you enter just before it's pitch black and you come out when it's black. But if you've timed it just right, you've got the full moon. So it's unless there's serious cloud cover, you'll be able to come out and you've got the moonlight. Now, using Wind Guru what the cloud cover is going to be, because Wind Guru tells you all of that stuff. So if you've gotten anything out of the last 35 minutes hanging out with me, it will be regardless of dive discipline, regardless of what you plan on doing. Certainly elevate yourself to where you're able to not just know and use tools that are out there to help you plan your dives and keep your dives safe, but also be in a position to lead, to be a dive leader, to bring two or three other divers along with you, and be in that position where you're taking names, you're taking numbers, you're getting people's emergency contacts, you get comfortable with your dive team and just scale that up. I know it's a bit risky if you're diving with people you don't know, but when you and I travel overseas on our own to dive, we're getting buddied up with people we don't know every day. I went to Cozumel by myself. I'm with somebody new every day. I go anywhere. You're just put with complete strangers. In Bermuda, we do have a small but thriving dive community. I call it small because it's not everybody that dives, but yeah, it's just like, I think what I'm trying to say to my local divers is we need to do a lot more diving. And I think what keeps a lot of us from diving is we sort of are waiting for someone to sort of take the lead and bring a couple of people together, or we're waiting for so and so to send us an invite because he's taking his boat out. So I just encourage more people to get into dive leading. I did digress. I do apologize for that. But number 4 was Flats Bridge. I don't dive it as often as I used to, but it is a must see. There's a lot to see, and just the planning for it is just super exciting. And I almost forgot the whole vibe. Like, bridge, you got super current going one way, you got a bit of slack water, current coming back the other way. So what you have to be prepared for at the end of your dive, night or day, is a bit of a ride. It's a bit of a ride, because depending on how you've timed it, you have to make a decision as a dive leader or as a group. Okay, do we want to end the dive with the current pushing us into Harrington Sound? And we're talking about like, for those of you that have no idea, it's a ripping current. Like, it's rapid level. Like, do you want to get washed into the sound, or do you want to get washed under the bridge and into where the boats are moored? And you have to be really, really careful with that, because I think the safest is to end your dive with the current taking you into the sound. At least that way, you're not, you're in the sound. And then what you can do is make your way, once you get sort of out of the pull of the current, you can make your way towards the aquarium and go along the edge of the rocks and exit that way. Now, I've been on a couple of dives where dive buddies have mistimed the current, and or not hugged the shoreline good enough, and have gotten caught in the current that's going out of the sound, and gotten like washed, like one fin mask off, ready to come out of the water, takes a step back, steps into the current, gets washed under the bridge screaming, and it's dark, and so you gotta plan that one. And again, if there's anything you've gotten out of the last 38 minutes, it's use your tools, plan your dive. And this goes for all sites, all shore diving. And I could spend another hour just talking about like the safety and the prep and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if you're visiting Bermuda to shore dive, if you are a resident or an active local diver, it's always wonderful to have somebody that's done it before. I mean, it's good to even live life with a guide, right? Just, there's someone who's done what you want to do before, learn from them, and then you can carry forward and then pass on and launch to somebody else. Number 5. This is another interesting site, and this, like, I put this on my list because we guys used to dive this a lot. We had, again, let me do a little recap because it's been 40 minutes. John Smith's Bay, number 1, for many reasons. Number 2, Elbow Beach. You've got the arch and the structures around the arch, and then you've got the Pollock Shields shipwreck, which is amazing. Number 3, we had Clarence Cove on our North Shore, the only site on my list that is on the North Shore. Flats could be considered on the North Shore. Yeah. So that's not accurate. Flatsbridge would be number 4. Number 5, Watch Hill Park. Watch Hill Park has very similar sort of gnarly stories to go along with it. And the reason I say that is because Watch Hill Park has amazing reef structure. There's so much to see, and you get depth at the breaker line. At depth, it drops. I got some amazing video diving Watch Hill Park, and there's usually all kinds of critters, lionfish, and all kinds of grouper and stuff hanging around the breaker line. But if you go to Watch Hill Park tomorrow, you know it's on Bermuda's South Shore. It's very close to John Smith's Bay. You drive down off the main road. You're gonna say, "Well, where did these guys get in? Where did these guys get out?" And you're gonna look, and you're gonna see some very jagged rocks, and just like you're gonna say, "Look, where's the? How does this even work?" Well, go there if you can. Or better yet, go there with somebody that's been there before. And what you'll learn real quick is that we giant stride, for the most part, off of those jagged rocks into the ocean. Or there's a cut in the rocks. We kind of, make our way down to that little cut and kind of sit on our butts and go in. And then, as we're going in, you're watching out for urchins. You've got gloves on. Yeah, you're looking out for the urchins so you don't prick your fingers and stuff. And then what happens is, like, if you're doing this for the first time, you're gonna say, okay, well, then said look out for the urchins, and then hopefully it's little swell. You can't really enter or exit at Watch Hill if you've got the swell. And you're gonna say, okay, now there's a wall. So just underneath the surface of the water, there's this coral wall. So you have to time it just right where you're not getting your ankle stuck in a hole and break your ankle. You're also gonna need to avoid this slightly subsurface coral wall, and you're gonna have to time it with the swell so you can push yourself over that wall and get into the open. Now, most guys giant stride off of a higher rock, and they just forget that whole getting down bit and just giant stride, and you're good. That's getting in. So you're in. Now, even if you're free diving, you can do the giant stride and put your fins on in the water and kind of hop around and get yourself sorted. On scuba, you can do different things to get yourself in safely. But it's it's gnarly, you guys. Like, because getting out is probably twice as bad, because in most scenarios where I've dove Watch Hill, and shout out to all my dive buddies that have done Watch Hill Park, with or without me, it's a situation where you got a D-kit, get out of your kit, take your weights out, throw your weight pockets up on the rocks, throw your weight belt up on the rocks, like get up on the rocks, turn around, pull up your BC with your tank attached. And this is like you're the first guy, so you're the guy that makes every other person's exit easier because you're there to grab and whatnot. So first things first. Let me back up. Diving Watch Hill Park and diving Devonshire Bay, which isn't on my list. It should be honorable mention, but diving Watch Hill Park and Devonshire Bay, you really gotta know the changing of the tides and the swell direction and how all that plays out during during your dive, because Watch Hill Park is gnarly even on the best day, especially if you don't do it a lot or you don't have everything you need. Like, you need thick-soled boots, you need gloves, and you definitely need to have visualized a plan. Now, what a couple of you guys started to do is called a drop, where essentially you enter and start your dive at Watch Hill Park, but you head east and you exit at John Smith's Bay. That just makes the whole experience better. Some free dive teams enter at Spittle and exit at John Smith's. Some dive teams will, for example, enter at mid-ocean and cover ground and exit at John Smith's. Just depends on what you want to do. But if somebody was like, I want to scuba dive Watch Park, I'd say, Cha, I hope Dive Bermuda and Grotto Bay can make the run, because you just have to be prepared for it. You got to have the right gear, and you got to have the right mentality, and you got to really want to do it. And it's not somewhere that I would take a beginner, But in terms of risk and reward, Watch Your Park can be really phenomenal. And if you guys can, and again, like, I'm gonna get OTS running so that I can cut to video, cut to satellite, cut to pictures, because the multimedia is valuable. But the knowledge is too, right? Like, I'm hoping I'm giving you guys value. I'm hoping what I'm saying makes sense. I'm hoping that it's clear with the mic and the video is good. But yeah, I mean, so Watch Your Park, I had a really bad experience. And again, I say this is like, 4 out of 5 level of NAR. But we do these at night too. So we're not talking about like, dangerous shore diving, during the day area, kind of. You can at least see what's going on. We're talking about doing this dangerous dive. I don't want to call it dangerous. Like, it's not like. Anyway, the story goes like this. I'll be brief. 3 of us diving at night, and what we did is we put a flashing. How do you get out? Oh, real quick, Jade. Wonderful to see you on the live. We gotta get. Our last dive was like December. Gosh. So getting out at Watch Hill real quick before I move on with my story. You get out where you get in. It's that cut. Where you park your car, you get as close as you can to the water. You go right, you walk over the rocks, and you get right down to the shoreline. There's this kind of groove where we go in and out of that groove. I mean, over the years, I've been saying, look, let's do a little rope system. Let's bring some tools and make some steps. Let's install a stainless steel like handle. Like, we guys used to dive Watch Your Park so much, we were gonna put some type of semi-permanent like infrastructure there to make it safer and easier to get in and out. But we guys started doing it so much that we just managed to push through. Now what happens is, and this goes back to knowing the weather, because just because you go in and everything looks great, the weather can change in an instant, in moments. And what you don't want to do is, like the story, I'm about to get into it right now. Me and 2 other divers, we entered the water. The conditions were fine. The 3 of us were poking around. It's just at night. We had a red blinking lantern thing on the shore, because if you can imagine, it's at night and there aren't that many like houses and street lights set up, whereas you're able to surface and say, oh, our exit is right there. So we had the light, and some dives someone's taken the light, some dives the light has failed. And when you don't know where your exit point is along a dark, desolate shoreline, that can be really bad. And shout out to Will Gillett. I was doing some diving, and I believe it was Will. He started a fire. And I can't remember how it all played out, but I know that we surfaced and had no idea, where we were. We had no visual reference as to where our exit point was, and your boy started a fire. And that fire saved us licks, because I remember we surfaced and we were like far. And when you're on scuba, you've got, all the benefits that scuba brings, but you've also got the disadvantages of, okay, you're out of air, now you have to surface swim, and you think your exit is a 4-minute workout away. You're like, okay, in the length of a song, I can make it back and I'll be, no, like, you surface and you're not where you need to be. And, you're like, man, I'm in front of this house. You're like, that house, and where I need to be is like 12 minutes. Anyway, so with this particular story, me and the guy was, 2 guys and my ace girl. We guys are calling lionfish, right? And we drop down, we see one, we put it in the container. Again, night diving off of Watch Hill Park in Bermuda. And we look around, and she's gone, right? So we're like, oh, cha, where'd she go? So, we were pro safety. We all had, our primary light, two secondary lights, glow sticks on our valves. We cover the safety. We'd been diving before. No issues with respect to like protocol and training and whatever. But for whatever reason, long story short, I'll end it her is she just decided to call the dive and not let us know and go back to the exit and get out. So that's what she did. We didn't know that. So we're on the surface, shining our lights, shouting her name. The conditions had deteriorated. So we're like, where is she? So we're shouting her name. And, it's funny, man. Like, I got stories. I mean, I've been part of dive teams that have been, abandoned at sea where we surface and the boat's just gone. That was bad. Um, Gosh, I was on the water on Narcosis, November 11th, 2014, when Neil drowned. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, with this her, like, I'm just thinking like all kinds of things. No matter your experience, no matter your training, you surface and someone on your dive team is not with your team, and it's night, and the conditions have deteriorated. I started thinking, okay, what am I going to tell this girl's parents? Like, it got to that point, and I don't wish this on anybody because we were just like, we're who does that? Like, who, you know. Anyway, so yes, despite that stuff, Watcho Park remains on my top 5 list of sites to dive. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that Watcho is a site that you definitely want to explore safely. I would certainly promote diving Watcho Park during the day as much as you can to get comfortable with the site. Use weather.bm and Wind Guru and all those tools to better predict the weather. And so that's my top 5. So honorable mention, you guys, real quick. I don't want this to be longer than an hour. Is Morak Long Bay. Morak Long Bay is particularly beautiful. Once you get out to the breakers, there's a lot of really, really cool swim throughs to check out. And again, like when I think of shore diving, I think of, everything. What facilities are there? Are there showers? Are there restrooms? Can you park your vehicle close to the beach? And then are there points of interest? Because while Bermuda is littered with, and I use litter in a positive sense, littered with bays and beaches to explore, it's not always that much to see in certain sites. And it depends. Like, shout out to Church Bay. Church Bay is it's probably like Tobacco Bay and Church Bay are probably the two most popular like sites we recommend people to go snorkel and do some, basic free diving. But off of Church Bay and Tobacco Bay, you don't get the tunnels and swim throughs and the depth that you may want if you're an advanced diver and you really want to get out there and get some depth and do some overhead with the tunnels and swim throughs and stuff like that. So Warwick Long Bay offers that. And Cooper's Island, Cooper's Island, you need to know a guy. Because at Cooper's Island, if you don't know a guy, you can only park like to this gate, and then you have to walk all the way to get to the point of entry to get to all the interesting stuff. That, or if you're on scooter, you can kind of nip and get around all that and get out to the end, right? Don't tell anybody I said that. Let not all these secrets, I guess. Going live, that's what happens. You gotta just let the cats out the bag. But if you know a guy, namely somebody from parks, I'm not going to mention any names, but if you know someone that can open the gate and you schedule it and you've got a good group of guys, you can probably get permission to drive your vehicle all the way to the end. And that's what you want to do. You want to get to the very end of Cooper's Island and enter in the rocks off of there. And there's amazing tarpon and all kinds of really amazing things off the end. But yeah, Josh is calling it the March of Death. So shout out to my free divers that just have to probably carry a weight belt with probably 6 to 8 pounds and, the wetsuit, the spear, the masks and fins and snorkel. However, to my scuba family, you got the 30-pound cylinders and all your weights and the regs and the BCDs and stuff. And yeah, Lionfish Reef for sure, Robin. So plan it, and you gotta, like, again, even if you don't know a guy that can open the gate, if you know a guy that can bring a trolley, you know, just have your Wheaties, have your Celsius, Fiji apple pear, take two, and do that march. And it's not so much getting it there, it's when you're done your dive, especially if you're doing what these guys are talking about on the chat. You're taking per side mount, potentially double cylinder side mount, potentially the the alley 100s. You'll get out there, you'll feel amazing, you'll enter, you'll do your dive, and then when your dive ends, you realize, oh, now I gotta do the march of death back to my car, bike, or truck. And hopefully, if you're part of the teams that call lionfish, you've got some lionfish and no empty hands. So in the chat, you guys is saying the Mark Wynn torture walk. Yeah, please, like, phone a friend. Namely, like somebody from Parks, you and I. If you're in Bermuda and you're diver, at least two guys that have a key to that gate. Plan it, and please, like, you save you guys so much licks if you just have somebody. And apologies to my colleagues in conservation services and parks if, like, that's totally illegal, but we guys are trying to keep lionfish off the reef, and we want to avoid the Mark Wynn torture walk. Help us, like, we're all part of the same team. We want to just get out there and call lionfish and not walk a mile. Either way, you guys, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to take them. Certainly I do miss not being able to bring multimedia over into the live, so I'll put my IT cap on and get that sorted out for next week, because it'll be wonderful to share at least pictures with you guys. Because while most of you in the live chat are Bermuda divers, some people aren't, and some people that jump on the rebroadcast or the replay are going to be tuning in, and they're going to say, wow, well, and really switches up to talking local, like we just want to come Bermuda and shore dive. To that point, if you do decide to come to Bermuda as a tourist once everything opens back up, and you do want to shore dive, feel free. Reach out to one of the 4 local dive shops and speak to the manager, who can probably work something out for you. We've got a couple representatives from Dive Bermuda on the live, and who do this. They are dive professionals. This is what they do. I'm not a diving professional, but I do know that boat diving is promoted way more than shore diving, because, and I should have talked about this in the beginning, while you can rent those little Twizzies and get around in Bermuda, unlike Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, you can't rent cars and rent kit and load up all your gear and go out on your own. You really need a guide and a car to get out there and explore. So what I would say is reach out to a local dive shop. You do the 2-tank boat trip. You'll do a wreck and a reef, and you'll come back by lunchtime or just after lunch, and you'll be fine. But if you, for example, are dying to dive John Smith's Bay, there is definitely a way that can happen. But unlike the ABCs, it's a little bit more tricky to arrange, but it's not impossible. So yeah, cheers to you and to your families. Thank you so much for tuning into this live, and if you're watching this on the rebroadcast, hello. Sorry that I forced you guys to just look at my face and hear my voice for the last hour, but I didn't know that Facebook Live doesn't let you do screen sharing on the fly during a live. I totally assumed that this had the ability to do that. And if I go into the management thing here, I'm like, it's just gray with like the red, red circle with the line through it. So I can't do that. So that's cool. Lesson learned for next time. And yeah, I think that going live from John Smith's Bay on Monday was fun, and I'll definitely go live on location again if I can get One Communications on board as a sponsor to help cover the cost of the data, because all things considered, it's not a cheap thing to do. But we're good, man. Shout out to all the local divers. Shout out to the Making Waves family. Shout out to the Dive Bermuda family. Shout out to my Atlantic Mooring Maintenance family. Ooh. Shout out to my friend Lisa. Yeah, I should have talked more about could talk more about Devonshire Bay. I'm gonna add that to my list. I think Devonshire Bay would definitely be top 10. So we'll see. I'll give this a little bit more thought. Yeah, like diving Watchell Park and diving Devonshire Bay could be 1 hour, 1 hour lives in of themselves, and most of that would probably cover in real time, figuring out how to use the tools to predict the weather, because that's the biggest thing, man. You do not want to get gosh, some of my worst shore diving experiences have been at Devonshire Bay, but some of my best have been at Devonshire Bay as well. So, again, the only time things have gotten gnarly is when we mistime the changing of the tides, or we, for overlook recognizing the swell direction. But the worst thing is, you're having a wonderful time at the start of your dive. You ride the pipelines. You get to the drop. You decide, do I go east? Yeah, Lisa. As soon as I said Devonshire Bay and I saw her name in the chat, I was like, Lisa broke her knee. Yeah, I wasn't there, but Lisa is a near and dear friend of mine. Lisa, we met a really long time ago at the Bermuda Sub Aqua Club, and I know during a shore dive there, you did break your knee, but yeah, and this goes for any dive. You're doing your dive, but again, you get to the pipeline, you drop down, you decide, okay, we're gonna go east or west. If you go west, you get to the arch. Yeah, it does. It's pure. You know what, Quay? It reminds me of the Matrix. It reminds me of the Matrix and the lines going to Machine City. Because you've got, for those of you that don't know, and again, I'm speaking to my local guys, really, right? But you've got the underwater telecommunication lines that run from Devonshire Bay to the States. And they're massively shielded cables, and it looks like Machine City. I think it's three of them that go out. So what you want to do is you want to follow you go down the boat slip where the guys sell the fish. There's the boat slip. Go off of there, go into the shallows, get to where it gets up to your chest, do your whole kidding up and whatever, and then make your way out, ride the pipes, and you get out. If you're not got too much swell, that's great, because you're not having to really, deal with the pipelines. You kind of use them as a visual reference, but you're checking things out. And you get to the drop, you go down, you go west, you get to the arch, everything's great. But what happens is, you turn your dive, and you guys decide as a dive team whether you're going to turn. Typically half a tank, first person to get to half, you turn. And what happens is, you're making your way back, and you get to the pipelines, and you find that, oh wow, I need to pull myself along these pipes to get back to shore because there's such swell. And just like Robin said in the chat, yeah, when you stare at the exact same spot on the cable for 5 minutes, spinning like crazy and not moving an inch. One super memorable dive I had, and the reason why I remember this so vividly, is at the end when we did finally all get out of the water. It was three of us. Nobody talked to nobody. There was no let's open the Magners. There was like cheers to this awesome dive. There was no camaraderie. There was no high-fiving. we fortunately we all had gloves on. We'd all done it before, but the weather just turned and the swell kicked in, and we had to pull ourselves along the pipeline, like pulling like with the swell. So with the swell going towards the shore, we're pulling, kicking, pulling, kicking, pulling, kicking, and then clenching, because then the swell will be pulling us back. And as it's pulling us back, you're holding on. You're like, "Argh." I mean, it's so much. This particular dive, it was so much current that like your regulator is like pulling from the side of your mouth, and sometimes it would purge, and you're just holding on. And in many cases, we guys wouldn't dive John Smiths without a stage bottle. So essentially, you've got your one tank of back gas, and you've got what I use as travel gas, my bottle on my side, staged, right? So I haven't done too much side mount at Devonshire Bay because the guys I were with weren't really keen at the time. We're going back a few years, but yeah, like you've got all this drag. So, you got the tank, your stage bottle, your travel gas, that's breathed down to zero. You got your back gas, you're trying to just make it back. And, you're not even like, I'm all for safety and team diving, but I remember I was just like, yo, it's survival of the fittest this year. And fortunately, we had gloves. Now, I know guys that will show up to Devonshire Bay and, oh, I forgot my gloves. I'm like, okay, well, not diving. Like, because if we have to ride these pipes back, and it's not like this, they got the metal pins and things, and, you can cut your hands and stuff like that. So, hey, please, if you don't dive with gloves, please dive with gloves. And I know if you're hunting lionfish, you most likely got gloves. But if you're just tagging along and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to spear, so I don't need any gloves. No, if you're going to Devonshire Bay or Watch Hill Park or Flats Bridge or any of these amazing but dangerous dive sites, please have gloves. The fire coral will get you. You will get caught. Something's going to happen where you're going to need your gloves. So, yeah, man. Robin, just like your story, like conditions can get crazy, and the wave and swell action will make it so you're riding those pipes back to shore. And we guys got there. You guys finally made it back to shore, and it was just, you were so exhausted, almost out of gas completely, and it's just kit off, weights off, please. Like, I need to lay down. Yeah, side mounted Devonshire Bay with a zookeeper, you might as well be a drift anchor. Yeah, I mean, my guy had the zookeeper at the time. We each had, an LE 80s bottle staged. You're just like, bro, crazy. So I'm definitely gonna do a video. May not be live, it may be live. Just going over the tools and things that I use as a dive leader and as a guide to better prepare my dives. Now I know that many of you on the live in the chat, you are experienced diving professionals. This is something you guys do every single day. But to people that don't do this professionally and don't dive every day, but are keen to snorkel, free dive, or scuba dive, and just maybe don't do it as much because they just kind of don't know how to do it safely. So safety is probably the biggest hurdle. Then I'm happy to cover some of that stuff as well. Some of the books. One of the books. Yeah, I got some BSAC books. Shout out to the Bermuda Subaqua Club, a branch of the British Subaqua Club. They produced quite a few books. One of them, yeah, dive leading. Look at that. Yeah, so shout out to BSAC and some great literature. Sorry if the cover art isn't the best. That's probably what diving looks like in the UK, kind of murky and whatnot. But this is 150 pages of some amazing literature on how to be a dive leader. Dive leader is actually a level in the training curriculum of the Sub Aqua Club. It's ocean diver, sport diver, dive leader. So through BSAC, you actually learn that, and yeah, that kind of what makes you, or at least gives you the tools and the knowledge and the experience in bringing people together to dive. And yeah, 1975. What's that? Yeah, 19. Lisa, I need to find out when that picture was taken. That picture was taken. Well, the book says first published in the UK in 2004. So I'm sure the fundamentals are there. But if I bring up the cover, they gotta have credits for the cover shot. That's some gnarly business right there. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the masks. Anyway, I digress, you guys. Again, I don't think you guys have too many questions for me on the live because I know you guys, and I thank you for your time tonight. What I love about Facebook Live, in comparison to like Instagram Live, is Instagram is great for like DJ sets and Beanie Man versus Bounty Killer and stuff, where you cut the live and that's it. You can't really go back in the comments and engage with people that had questions or queries or comments or feedback. Whereas in Facebook, once I cut this live, I'm able to go back and address all the comments and queries one by one and continue that engagement. So that's why I chose, Facebook as my platform of choice. And I definitely encourage you guys. I mean, you guys have, I'm looking at you guys right there, so much knowledge and experience. If you go live, let me know. I'm happy to promote your lives, over my platform, because I think doing stuff like this definitely brings value to those that just don't have the knowledge, right? They just don't know. And I know a bunch of you guys, are keen to dive sites like Flats or dive sites like Watch Hill and just don't have that knowledge. And it's something that you certainly you don't want to just, excuse the pun, just jump in. Even though, yeah, I don't think I ever did any of this diving like without having at least a guide. But yeah, happy to jump off and have a glass of wine. And yeah, if you guys have any feedback for me, and if it's like you want to say something that might be like embarrassing or whatever, send me a DM. If you're like, yo, like you had a booger in your eye the whole time, bro, I couldn't look at you, like. Or if you're like, man, what's going on with those stuffed animals on your shelf, man, that's, you need to move those lionfish off there or something, like. Just let me know, because this is one of many lives, and I just want to bring you guys some fun stuff, some fun content. And yeah, I don't really plan these, to be honest. I don't always know exactly what to say or how it's gonna go. This is all off the cuff, but like, again, I just encourage more locals to share knowledge. Like, that's a big thing. I've always been keen to build community, and my calling, has been doing those events where I set up shop at a beach and invite everybody, and everybody dives. I haven't done that in a while. I will start those back up again really, really soon. Look out for the 5 being chili and the swizzle. But at the same time, there's nothing stopping anybody else from doing that same thing, or going live, or creating PDFs or ebooks, or creating a website or whatever. Anyway, so for all you guys on the live and on the replay, please go to weldonwade.com. Right now, the site is in the works, but you hit that URL, it'll shoot you over to Linktree. It'll give you a bunch of cool buttons that'll give you some information on, I think I need to update it, but just extra little odds and ends about me and some other cool resources. I'm gonna put links to the local dive shops up. Might do that tonight. And Quay, Jade, Josh, Angie, Robin, Lisa, everybody on the live, thank you so much for tuning in. Quay, you've got so much knowledge, bro. Like, yeah, man, you got so much knowledge, man. Be great if you would have put stuff out there, man. But you know, we all do what we can in our own way, in our own time. You know what I mean? And I've been wanting to do an Into the Blue series for ages, and what held me back was the editing. You know, it's like, I shoot stuff, I gotta edit it and do all the cutting and that. So I was just like, look, forget it. After I did the Patty live, I said, okay, we're gonna do the Into the Blue thing live and just skip all the editing and all the scripting and prep and transitions and forget all the post-production stuff and just boom. So all you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and stay safe, and fingers crossed for us in Bermuda here to get to phase 4 so that we can get back out into the blue. So until next time, maybe I'll do this next week, maybe I'll do it sooner, maybe I'll be in the blue room, maybe I'll be out on the water. We'll see. But thank you guys so much. Peace.